Coming to you from the Deep South, this is the Blue Collar Leadership Podcast. High impact leadership is not reserved for leaders, and it has nothing to do with your position, title, or rank. However, it does have everything to do with your character. It's time to climb to the next level and beyond, personally and professionally. Now, let's start making it happen with your host, Max Story.
Hello, and thanks for listening to the Blue Collar Leadership Podcast today. Today, I want to talk to you about something I see all over the country. I see it in many organizations. Actually, most organizations. Most of the ones that we support, I see a lot of what I'm going to talk to you about today. But before we get going, I just want to mention Rhea and I when you're listening to this, we have just gotten off of a week vacation down in Venice, Florida. If you don't know about Venice, Florida, if you got children, you need to take them down there on those beaches and look for some shark's teeth. There are so many. I mean, you find hundreds every day, many times as you want to go. They're just it's crazy. They're old fossilized teeth. I think they say they're 10,000 to 10 million years old. They're black. Most of them are black. Some of them brown. But anyway, if you got children, the Venice area, Casperson Beach specifically is probably the best place, but there's a lot of beaches down there that around Venice and south of Venice. But Venice is about an hour south of Tampa, Florida. So anyway, Rhea and I really love going to that area. It's kind of quiet. Not a lot for There's not a lot for children to do down there besides the beach, and there's not a lot for college age folks and people who like to party. It's the laid back part of Florida, and we like it that way. So we go down there most of the time to a little part of it on Minnesota Key called Inglewood, little city down there on Minnesota Key. But this past week we were in Venice, and we got a lot coming up in June. We actually got another week vacation with our family down in Panama City. It's going to be we're staying in different places, but we're all going to be down there at the same time, pretty close together. And it's really the first time we've done anything like that. So that's going to be pretty neat. So we got another week in June to be down at the beach. And then also in June, we're going to be in Dallas. Speaking, actually June 9th, we'll be with Kilgore Industries. They're a large MEP headquartered out of Houston. I know some of you probably work there that are listening. So we'll be doing something up there with the Dallas group, and it's going to be a couple of different things on the same day. That's going to be pretty cool. And then we'll be in Minneapolis, Minnesota. We'll be up there speaking with first time with this group, but it's Gittleman Construction, Residential Construction and Maintenance Services. We'll be speaking to a group of those folks, 60 or 70 people there. So we're looking forward to that. And then we'll also be up in North Syracuse Central School District, speaking to that organization up in Syracuse, New York. And we're actually speaking to the facilities management group there. And then actually later on in the year, a couple months later, I can't remember which month it is now, but we'll be actually going up to Saratoga, New York, and speaking at a conference for all of the facilities management leaders from around the entire state of New York. Be about 300 people there. And both of those groups, actually all of these groups, they've purchased hundreds of books to give out to the folks, and we're excited to go speak to those folks in June. So starting a busy season. We got a lot going on in July. July we'll actually be up in Vancouver, Canada, speaking 2 times up there, and Seattle, Washington, speaking there as well. And there's some other things I can't remember, but those are ones that stick out for July. I barely keep up with what I got to do tomorrow. So anyway, just want to share some of what's been going on in our lives. I know some of you know us personally, some of you don't. I always get on here and want to talk go straight to the leadership stuff because that's what I'm passionate about and fired up about. But I know some people like to know a little bit about what we're doing and what's going on. So anyway, hope you enjoy today's podcast. And again, today's episode hadn't really told you what it's literally about, but what it's about is leaders who use leadership principles to manage. That's what a lot of them do. I hate to see it because I know they're not going to get the results of using leadership principles to lead. Because see, a lot of people who don't really understand about leadership, they think, well, when I go learn a leadership principle and I start applying it, I'm doing leadership. But if you're doing it in the context of managing people, you're still managing people. You're just using leadership principles to be a little more effective at managing people. So to help you understand it, maybe if you understand about lean manufacturing, most people do the same thing with lean. They're traditional companies, meaning they operate in traditional ways. They're not really doing lean manufacturing. They're definitely not a lean company. But what they'll do is they'll send some people to get some lean training, or they'll read a lean book and they'll start doing some lean things in their traditional environment, and then they want to call themselves lean. No, they're not lean companies. They're traditional companies using lean principles to be a little more effective and efficient at doing traditional manufacturing. That doesn't make you a lean company. So that's a whole different talk, but that's the world I come from. Most people, they want to use lean principles to become better at doing traditional manufacturing. That means they're a traditional company. They're not a lean company. So the same kind of thing applies to you as a leader. If you're not really focused, your character, if you really don't have the character of a high impact leader, odds are you're using leadership principles to manage people better. One way to identify this is there's a couple of ways, and that's what I want to talk to you about today. And I don't know how many ways I'm going to talk about. I freestyle my podcast. I don't write a script. I don't prepare for them very much, and I just decide what I want to talk about, and I get on here and talk about it. The rest of it just kind of flows. So I always know what I'm going to talk about, but I never know what I'm going to say. So one of the things leaders do, and you can listen and look in the mirror at yourself and see, do you need to work on something to be more of a leader and less of a manager? But one of the things they do is they read and study books like crazy, but it's really about them. I meet a lot of these leaders. They gung ho about reading and growing, personal development, developing themselves and becoming a better person and becoming a better leader. But many of these leaders I'm talking about, they don't value at all developing the people, not beyond the competency required to do the job. Most of these leaders, they'll develop the people relative to what's required to do the job, the competency. But a lot of these leaders who are gung ho about developing themselves and growing themselves, they're not gung ho about growing and developing their team. One way to tell is these leaders don't ever do any development with their team. They may be bringing us in to do it, but they don't do it themselves. There are rare leaders out there who are gung ho about it for themselves. They bring us in to support them. We're not the main show. We're just a support role for them. And when we're not there, these leaders are growing and developing their teams. They're engaged in leadership development. They're conducting classes. They're at the front of the room. Some of them are leading book studies with their team. Some are leading like a real leadership class where they get up there and they talk about leadership, what it means to them, what it means to the company, what it should mean to the people. So that's kind of an indicator, because see, if a leader's gung ho about their own personal growth and their own success, but they're not really becoming a teacher within their organization, they're not gung ho about being a part of the solution for their own team. What that does is it tells you a little bit about their motive. Why are they so gung ho? It's because they want to excel themselves, and there's nothing wrong with that. You've got to do that. To do what you should be doing as a high impact leader, you have to do what I'm describing. But that means you have to take another step beyond that. That's the foundation. You got to focus on yourself, because you can't give what you don't have. So I'm not saying that you don't have to do that to become a high impact leader. You got to do that. But doing that is not what makes you a high impact leader. You got to do something else to become a high impact leader on top of that. Because there's a lot of leaders, they focus on leadership development for themselves. Again, it's about them and their mission. but they're not really doing it for the team, which means they're taking leadership principles and trying to manage better with it. They're really just becoming better managers. They may become high impact managers of people. They can be highly effective, highly successful, and they manage people well. That's not leadership. That's something else. And a lot of leaders think they're being great leaders when they're doing that. No, they're being great managers of people. And I'm telling you, you would definitely rather work for a great manager of people than a pathetic manager of people. So that's still a step up from people who are not doing anything. But I want this episode to clarify for you as a leader, or if you're an aspiring leader, I want to give you some leadership truth about where you may be on your journey. You got to do some self-reflecting, and you got to figure it out. But that's one of the things that I see leaders doing the most. It is they work on themselves, but it's really all about them. High impact leaders, it ain't all about us. It starts with us, but it ain't about us. You've heard me say that before if you listen enough. That's what I'm talking about here. If the leadership training and development is all about me and it really ain't about we, then I'm just learning to be a better manager of people. So another thing leaders do, and I'm saying formal authority leaders, those in upper level leadership roles most often who bring us in, a lot of times they're not doing what I just described. They're not gung ho about leadership development themselves. These are even lesser managers than the one I just described. These are even at a lower level, but they'll bring us in and they don't really get involved in the development. They'll bring us in and want us to grow and develop some of their team members, which is great. That's phenomenal. It's kind of the opposite of what I just described, because now I'm describing a leader who's not gung ho about leadership themselves, but they are trying to help the other people be better. So they're giving them some leadership development, but they're not gung ho about it themselves. If you're following along, you see it's the opposite of what I just described a moment ago. It's still the same result, though. This is a lesser manager trying to use leadership to manage people. So these leaders are still seen as managers of people. They don't get the results of a high impact leader, because a high impact leader has to do both. They got to be gung ho for themselves, and then they got to be gung ho for the people, for growing and developing the people. So what happens when the leader who's not gung ho about personal growth and development brings us in to grow and develop some of the people? And what this is a manager who sees there's a problem, say out on the front lines, or there's a problem with frontline supervision, or there's a problem in middle management. The problem's with this leader, but they don't understand that because they're not leading, they're managing. So they're trying to manage the problem, which is bring somebody like us in to address the problem directly. But that problem really is a symptom. The problem is up above the symptom. But again, they don't know all that. So they bring in somebody to help treat the symptom. And a lot of times that's us. They bring us in, they put us with some frontline workers, or they put us with frontline supervisors, superintendents, those kind of folks, wherever they perceive the problem to be, which again, I'm saying is the symptom, because they are the real problem. But they bring us in to treat the symptom. If we are effective at treating the symptom, meaning some of the folks who are causing the leader some problems, if these folks actually get better, one of the first things they're going to realize as they become a high impact leader themselves is they're not reporting to one. So that's going to cause them some friction. And if they're new to leadership, they may not know how to deal with that. So some of them become rebellious. They start pointing out what the leaders are not doing and all that sort of stuff. And it's true, but it's not good for them to be pointing out all the bad leaders, because the leaders don't know they're bad leaders. They think they're great leaders. And they also have power and authority over you. So don't go do that. That's not a good thing to do when you start learning leadership, is start pointing fingers at everybody else. The other thing they do is, a lot of times when they really start learning, if they're gung ho for real, they actually get latched on to the content we or somebody else is teaching, high impact leadership content, personal growth content. If they get latched onto this and they get gung ho, one of the first things going to happen is they're going to leave the company. And they're going to leave because they don't have a leader capable of leading them. They have a manager who's teaching them leadership principles through someone else. And they figure all this out pretty quick. They realize I don't have a leader. I'm reporting to a manager, because that's what we're going to teach them. You can't teach leadership without teaching them what leadership is. And that's one of the first things they start to realize is all these people in the org chart are not really high impact leaders. They're really not leading the people at all, most of them. They're managing people. Again, you're going to be able to identify a high impact leader on the org chart because they're going to be gung-ho about their own personal growth and development, and they're going to be gung-ho about spreading it to the people in the organization, meaning they're teaching it. So they're living it and they're teaching it. They're modeling it. They're doing all of those things. That's what high impact leadership is. Anything less than that is someone using leadership principles to try to manage better. And I'm telling you, that's what most people do. That's why they don't get real results, because they're not real high impact leaders. It's artificial. They don't really want to go there. High impact leaders, they go there and they stay there. They get all in the middle of everything to do with leadership. They are seen as the high impact leader in the organization. The top leader is the on-site top leader. That may be the owner, that may be a CEO, that may be a president, that may be a plant manager, whatever the on-site leader is at the top. Everybody knows they're engaged, what they value. Doesn't mean everybody's perfect, doesn't mean they're perfect, but they're engaged, and everybody knows it. Anything less than that, the leader's using leadership principles to try to manage better. And they may very well manage better, but they're not going to lead better because they're not leading. It's artificial. It's just another tool in the toolbox. High impact leadership is about character development. It's about who you are. So what happens, John Maxwell talks about the law of the lid. I love it. It comes from his book, The 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. I love him talking about the law of the lid. And just to help you understand, that basically means the organization can't grow any higher than the lid on the organization. So if I'm a manager using leadership principles to try to manage better from a law of the lid standpoint, the law of the lid means, again, the organization can't grow any higher than the lid on the organization. So if the leader, again, is a manager of people, it's not going to create an organization full of leaders of people. Just not going to happen. Those people are going to leave the organization. The faster they grow, the faster they go, because they're going to outgrow those managers. Anybody who truly becomes a leader of people doesn't want to work for a manager of people any longer than they have to. Some of them may have to a long time because they got to get their finances squared away and they got to grow and develop themselves. Maybe they had a lot of work to do personally. So they may stay there a while they're growing and developing themselves, but they're going to leave after a while. So then the organization just stays where it's at. People buy in, people leave. People buy into leadership development, they leave. People buy into leadership development, they leave, because the manager has not ever bought into leadership and development. They're just using it as a tool to manage their organization. They read the books and all this kind of stuff, and they see how this makes things better, so they go do it, but it ain't authentic. If it's authentic, you're going to know it. Everybody's going to know it. If people down the org chart are always having to go try to get the boss engaged in leadership, hey, come join our book study, or hey, do this, or hey, can we do this? Can we order more books? Can we bring in people? If it's somebody besides the top leader who's all gung-ho, there's your sign that the top leader ain't bought in. The top leader ought to be flooding the people who are bought in with leadership development. If they're not flooding the people with leadership development that want leadership development, that's because they worried about the ROI and how much this costs and all that sort of stuff. High impact leaders, they know it costs more not to do it. So you can measure how much it costs to do it. You can measure how much it costs to order 300 books, which is $5,400 of our books. and then we come in and speak for 2 hours. When a leader wants to do that, they can see exactly how much it costs. It costs us $5,400 to buy 300 books and bring Mac and Rhea in to speak for 2 hours. It's so easy to see how much that costs. But they can't figure out how much it costs not to do it. But a high impact leader knows it costs a whole lot more not to develop the people than it does to develop the people. And a truly high impact leader knows it costs a whole lot if I develop the people and I don't develop me, because I'm paying to develop people that are going to go help somebody else's organization get better. And if you're a leader, you can't fake this. You can't pretend to be a high impact leader. Everybody knows it. Your behavior shows it. The amount and degree that you're bought in reveals it. You can't hide it. I talk to people all over the country who are hungry. Very, very few of the people I talk to on a regular basis, almost none, are the top leaders. That's sad. That's because the top leaders ain't the most gung-ho in their organization. It's somebody else. And you know what? I'm going to talk to these other people much as they want to talk to me. I don't want them to leave their organization and their leader who brought us in to speak. That ain't up to me, though. That's up to the leader. The leader of the organization decides who stays and who goes. It's the law of the lid. If you can't keep people, it's because of you, not because of me. I want to grow and develop people who are going to grow and develop people for the right reasons, because they value growing and developing people. That's who my best clients are. Leaders who grow and develop people because they value growing and develop people. They don't worry about an ROI. They could care less about an ROI. But the real ROI they actually measure, their results of their organization, they're already doing great and they're doing better. So they don't care how much it costs to develop the people, because they know the people are the ones providing the real ROI. If the real metrics are not good enough, it's because we need to develop some people. And if our real metrics aren't good enough and I'm the top leader, it's because I needed to develop me. If I'm a high impact leader, I'm the problem. I got to develop me. But see, a manager's going to blame other people and going to try to develop them, but not themselves. Again, you need to develop the people, but you also need to develop yourself. And if you're developing yourself, you still got to develop the people. High impact leadership is about everybody. High performance teams, everybody's being developed. So I talk to everybody. I've talked to people who were frontline entry people who now are leading crews of people, sometimes at a high level. Most of those people leave the organization where I met them. I don't tell them to leave. I don't want them to leave. But I want them to be whoever they're meant to be. I don't want them to be held back by Barney Fife. I want them to go find Andy Griffith. I want them to become Andy Griffith. If you hadn't watched the old Andy Griffith show, you need to watch it. It's old. It's going to be in black and white, but it's a leadership show. Andy's a high impact leader of people. Barney is a low impact manager of people. They're kind of on two different ends of the spectrum as far as their results go and how they get results. So the law of the lid, it's a big, big deal. And see, managers of people, when they hear me talk about people leaving, managers of people, they say, oh, well, if they're going to leave, I definitely ain't going to train them. Why do I want to train them if they're going to leave? See, that's a management mindset, because they have a management mindset. So that's what they're thinking. If there's a manager of people, and I guarantee you there's managers of people listening to this thinking they're leaders of people. The majority of people listening to this are actually managers of people trying to use leadership to be better managers, but they don't see it that way. They see it as they're good leaders and they're trying to be better leaders. But anybody who's listening to me talk today and they feel a little threatened, insecure, because why would I ever want to bring Mac and Rhea in if they're going to train people and they leave? Well, you wouldn't if you're doing it for management purposes. If you're doing it for leadership purposes, you don't care. You want to grow and develop people. You want to get better so that they don't leave, and they don't want to leave. But if they do want to leave, you're going to tell them, I'll give you the best reference you've ever had in your life. even if you leave, as long as you're a starter while you're on my team. See the difference? High impact leader wants to grow and develop you. They want you to have a better life, whether it's in their company or somebody else's company. It ain't about metrics and results for high impact leaders. It is about managers. That's all they're worried about. They looking at the numbers and they trying to figure out what can we do to make the numbers better. And a lot of times it's apply a little bit of lean principles, but not really become a lean company, because that's a whole nother level. So they just gonna piddle around in it, call themselves lean, or they're gonna figure out, oh, how can we build relationships better or get more employee engagement? And they're gonna hear something or read something about leadership, and they're gonna go cherry pick a few things and try to apply it. That's phenomenal if you're trying to be a better manager. It's pathetic if that's why you're doing it and you calling yourself a high impact leader. Y'all, if you listen to me, you know I talk leadership truth. This is a dose of leadership truth for all those managers out there listening to me thinking they're leaders. I don't know. I don't know who's listening. I'm trying to help you. I ain't trying to hurt you. I definitely ain't trying to turn you off from listening to me and growing and getting better, but I want you to know what you have to do to get real results is you have to be authentic. You have to actually care about people, not the ROI. People. A lot of times there's leaders who actually care about people, who want to become high impact leaders, but then there's people up above them who doesn't really care about the people. That's why it's called the law of the lid, as John calls it, because it's the top leader that ultimately determines where the lid on the organization is going to be. Let's say I'm the CEO and you're a plant manager and you want to be a high impact leader. You're working on yourself, you're developing yourself, and you want to invest in and develop the people. Well, it's really real easy to develop yourself. You can read some books, listen to some audios, videos. You probably got a budget and you can go to some seminars and conferences and that sort of stuff and really pour into yourself, and that's phenomenal. But if you want to go and grow and develop the people, say you got 500 people working your facility and you want to go and grow and develop those people, you want to do for them what you're doing for yourself. But then as soon as you start doing it, whether it's a VP above you or a C-level leader or whatever level leader, a director or whoever's up above you, maybe there's a director above you that leads, manages multiple plants. And you first thing starts happening is you start getting backlash from the leader above. See, the people don't know what all's going on, but I'm telling you what's going on. And if you're one of these people, you know what's going on. And then you get shot down. You can't do it. Eventually, you're probably going to leave the company. But while you're there, you can't do what you know needs to be done because there's a lid above you holding you down. And that lid is preventing you from doing the right thing for the people. The reason that is because the person above you on the org chart is not a leader of people. They're a manager of people. So you can see as I talk about this how it gets so complex. But if you're the top leader, there's nobody above you. If you're the top leader, if you're the owner, you're the CEO, or whatever your title might be, if you're the top leader and you have 100% control over how you invest in your people, your team, it's all on you. You either are a leader of people or you're a manager of people. There's different levels of managers. There's low impact managers, there's high impact managers, there's low impact leaders, and there's high impact leaders. What I talk about on my podcast and write about in my books is how to help people who truly want to become high impact leaders of people. It doesn't matter what level you're at today. You could be driving a truck, you could be riding a forklift, you could be a welder, you could be a machine operator, you could be a supervisor, you could be an engineer, customer service, sales, top leader, middle management. It does not matter. Anybody at any level can start working and growing themselves toward becoming a high impact leader. Again, all you got to do is you're gung ho about it and you're gung ho about helping other people buy into it. And you're willing to teach them and model this stuff. That's all it takes. If you're not in a formal position of authority, you live a life like I'm talking about, you're going to be offered positions of formal authority. Then it's up to you. You can accept it or you can reject it. Doesn't make any difference. It's not going to change whether or not you're a high impact leader or not. But you're going to have options. And that's what I want to do. I want to help people have options, because when you have more options, you have a better life. Become a high impact leader who wants to help people have more options. Talk to you next time.
Make it happen, or someone else will. It might as well be you. Are you serious about taking your career and your life to the next level and beyond? Check out Mac Story's Blue Collar Leadership series books and others, now available on audio, along with paperback and ebooks at Amazon, iTunes, and Audible. Please visit bluecollarleadership.com to learn about Mac's books, programs, special offers, certifications, and more. Thank you for listening to the Blue Collar Leadership Podcast.